Mr. Speaker, for purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be amended in the form I have placed at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to House Resolution 1316, offered by Mr. Austin Scott of Georgia. At the end of the resolution, add the following. Section 18, notwithstanding any other provision of this resolution, during consideration of H.R. 8771, pursuant to this resolution, it shall not be in order to consider Amendment Number 37, printed in Part B of House Report Number 118-559.
Are there any objections? Without objection, the motion is adopted.
Mr. Speaker, last night the Rules Committee met and reported a rule, House Resolution 1316, providing for consideration of 3 measures. H.R. 8774, the Department of Defense Appropriation Act of 2025, is to be considered under a structured rule. The rule provides for 1 hour of debate, equally controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on Appropriations, or their respective designees, provides for 1 motion to recommit, and makes 193 amendments in order. H.R. 8771, the Department of State, Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act 2025, to be considered under a structured rule. The rule provides for 1 hour of debate, equally controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees, provides for 1 motion to recommit, and makes 75 amendments in order. And H.R. 8752, the Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act 2025, to be considered under a structured rule. The rule provides for 1 hour of debate, equally controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designee, provides for 1 motion to recommit, and makes 61 amendments in order. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to support the rule and the underlying pieces of legislation, beginning with H.R. 8774, the Department of Defense Appropriations Act of 2025. Mr. Speaker, our country is currently facing threats at levels we haven't seen since World War II. However, H.R. 7074 delivers a strong response to the situations we currently find ourselves in. This bill provides nearly $834 billion to support our national defense and remains consistent with the levels set in the law by the Fiscal Responsibilities Act. Additionally, this bill rejects $18 billion of unjustified, unnecessary, and politically motivated spending included in the President's budget request. It redirects those resources to programs and activities that counter the threats we're facing from hostile actors, fosters innovation, enhances the DoD's role in combating the fentanyl crisis, and supports service members and their families. Mr. Speaker, the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party is clear, and this bill recognizes that. It prioritizes defense articles and services to Taiwan, as well as deterrence initiatives throughout the Indo-Pacific region. The bill modernizes our military and invests in next-generation fighter aircraft, helicopters, and tactical combat vehicles and submarines, ensuring our warfighters are prepared for the threats that lie ahead. This bill supports our ally Israel, who is under constant threat by the terrorist group Hamas. It provides funding for the Israeli cooperative missile defense programs, including Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow. Additionally, it prohibits funds to withhold the delivery of defense articles and services from the United States to Israel, as we've seen the Biden administration do in the past. It requires any withheld articles be delivered within 15 days. This bill refocuses the Pentagon on its core mission, prohibits funding for DEI offices, climate change executive orders, as well as other divisive social agendas and radical policies. Further, Mr. Speaker, this bill provides the funding to deliver a 4.5% pay raise for all of our military personnel and an additional 15% pay raise for our junior enlisted service members. The world is a safer place when America leads, and this bill ensures we're able to do so. Moving on to H.R. 8771, the Department of State, Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act of 2025. Mr. Speaker, this bill is another step in the right direction towards protecting our national security, safeguarding our global economic interests, supporting our allies and partners, and promoting freedom abroad. This bill also supports our ally Israel and provides funding to ensure they can defend themselves against terrorist attacks like we saw on October the 7th. Additionally, it prohibits funding for UNRWA, who we've seen support Hamas. Mr. Speaker, the United States is facing an imminent threat on our southern border. This legislation prohibits funds that encourage or facilitate dangerous migrations toward the U.S.-Mexico border and provides funding to combat the flow of fentanyl and other illicit drugs that are pouring into the United States and killing innocent Americans. Further, Mr. Speaker, this bill redirects taxpayer resources and prohibits funding for the Green Climate Fund, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, any gain-of-function research in labs in adversarial nations like China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, and Cuba. The world is a dangerous place right now, and again, Mr. Speaker, the world is safer when America leads. This bill redirects funding from flawed Biden administration policies that make the United States and our allies weaker to policies that make the U.S. stronger and the world a safer place. Finally, H.R. 8752, the Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act 2025. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that what our president is currently doing at our southern border is not working. H.R. 8752 takes the necessary steps to combat illegal immigration and the consequences that have come with it. This bill provides $600 million for construction of the southern border wall and requires Secretary Mayorkas to adhere to the law and build physical barriers immediately. It's pretty simple, Mr. Speaker. We're a country of laws. We need to uphold our immigration laws, and if we had done so in the last 3.5 years, we wouldn't be in this position. This has placed a tremendous burden on our already strained Border Patrol agents. However, this bill provides an additional $300 million for border security technology to help them do their jobs while also preserving funding for the 22,000 agents who are serving on the front lines of our border crisis. Tragically, Mr. Speaker, the Biden administration's failure to protect the border has resulted in dangerous criminals in our communities, putting Americans at risk. This bill provides $4.1 billion for custody operations to get these criminals off our streets and $822 million to fund transportation and removal operations. Further, Mr. Speaker, this bill focuses the Department of Homeland Security on its core mission of ensuring a homeland that is safe, secure, and resilient against terrorism and other potential threats. This bill prevents the department from carrying out its equity action plan or advancing critical race theory. Additionally, it rejects funding requests by the Biden administration that encourages illegal immigration and reduces funding for programs that could enable it. Altogether, Mr. Speaker, these three bills meet the needs of our nation as they currently stand. They provide our national defense and counter our adversaries. They support American values and principles. They work to secure our southern border and address the illegal immigration issue Americans are fed up with. And they ensure the proper use of taxpayer dollars by requiring that funding goes towards carrying out the core mission of the departments. It's simple, Mr. Speaker. These bills put the American people first. I commend the Committee on Appropriations for the work they did to craft these bills. I look forward to consideration of these important pieces of legislation, and I urge passage of this rule. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman